let's bring him in, ladies and gentlemen. Daniel Jeremiyah back here on the Rich Eisen Show. Oh, look at that!
Oh, look at that cut!
Baby,
wow, Daniel
can't exactly recount the conversation we had about an hour and a half ago.
We can.
You can't. I can't repeat my response. When you said you're going to get your cut, pre-combine cut. And you said something about what did you say about your
well, you asked if I could maybe come on 5 minutes early.
Yeah.
And I thought about it and I said, well, I'm cutting it close. I've got a haircut appointment.
Literally.
And then I said, but to be honest, it doesn't take as long to cut my hair as it did a few years back, to which you didn't take kindly.
No. I basically said, tell me about it. But I might have used a different way of saying it.
Yeah. By the way, the look on her face, it was not an impossible task when I said, I've got my buddy's show coming up.
Yes.
Can we get this done by X amount of time? And I was hoping for maybe a little bit of a pause. And she was like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
No
Just like, why would you ask me?
You're going to stop and get breakfast on the way back?
What am I, Michelangelo, and you're David? Get out of here. One of my favorite, I'll tell this, what the heck. One of my favorite moments, Marshall Falk once upon a time told me he knew somebody who did hair restoration. And he goes, you want his number? And I'm like, sure. And I call his number and they're like, the doctor would, it starts with a FaceTime. So I set a FaceTime appointment. And I FaceTime, the doctor will be with you shortly. And there's just this empty screen of the doctor's office. And you could hear the door open. The doctor comes in, looks at me, goes, oh, wow. Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
This is what I still have.
Still bald.
Well, at least the person cutting your hair didn't go, oh, wow. Let me see. I don't know if I've got time here. Okay.
Unless that hair restoration doctor is named Miracle Max.
That's right. I know that. No, you didn't have to pile on, Daniel. I thought I stuck the landing. We thought we had the button on that part of the
He's only mostly bald.
By the way, you and I are getting ready for 4 days of this. As we're watching the combine play out in front of us, man. But how do you view next week, DJ? Like, what? Yeah, you psyched? You're pumped? What do we got here for you?
I'm excited about it, man. I think there's a lot of players that can help teams, and I think there's coming off of a Super Bowl where we saw the last 2 Super Bowls where we saw defensive lines kind of take over and dominate those games. We've got a ton of pass rushers, edge rushers specifically. It's really, really deep. I think these guys are going to test well. The tape's good. We'll have our arm length conversations with, Reuben Bain and Cassius Howell. So, get ready for those. But it's a really good D-line group. It's a really good wide receiver group. Corners is solid. Linebackers are good. And then we always have one of these positions. I can remember, a few years back, it might've been tight ends or where we're like, okay, we'll see. And then all of a sudden they all just flew in the 40s. So there's always surprises. So looking forward to that. But, these players, Rich,
yes, Daniel, Jeremiyah,
they're training, they're running, they're jumping, they're trying to get ready to test well.
Yes.
And when you're doing what we're doing, what we do is we just create Post-it notes of how to pronounce the Penn State guard's name. And you just stare at it. You just stare at it all day long.
Tell me about it like that. Listen, my job is to, as far as I'm concerned, say the names right, get the narratives for all 32 teams about what fans are hoping for and what happened to the teams and what cap space they may have and what they just did with a new head coach and more a new general manager, what the Dolphins might look like, et cetera, et cetera. And then I leave it up to you and Charles Davis and the rest of our crew to fill in the blanks, and Stacey Dales is so awesome with knowing the stories and tugging on the heartstrings and letting us know what's going down on the field and things of that nature. But let's, I guess, start with the first order of business. Again, we're going to be talking about it certainly on Saturday, and hopefully we will see Fernando Mendoza spin it in the building in which he beat the Ohio State in the Big Ten championship to get to the college football playoffs undefeated. He's the first overall pick, correct? Like, there's no doubt about it. The Raiders aren't going to trade it, and he's going to be it, right, Daniel?
Well, I think I saw a video of Tom Brady at the Olympics taking in some ice hockey. That doesn't seem like there's a lot of worry about what they're going to do with the first overall pick.
Nice.
So I think that one feels pretty concrete. And a couple things. He's worthy of being the first pick. There's years where, and we've discussed this, where my top overall player, might be at a different position, and maybe the quarterback's the 4th or 5th best player just in terms of grade. but they still go one because of, the obvious need there. In my opinion, I think he's the best football player in the draft. So he's warranted to be the first overall pick. I think he's going to fit very well with Kubiak. There's some people have talked about, well, the offensive line is not in good shape. So did they need to fix that first? And look, the Patriots were in the Super Bowl this year with 4/5 of an offensive line they didn't have a year prior. You can flip the offensive line around. They already have a left tackle in Colton Miller, provided he can be healthy for a full season. He's a very solid player there. They can fill in around it in free agency and the rest of the draft, but I think this is a good reset for them. Get the coach, get the quarterback, and off you go.
Where does he rank if you put him in the last two draft classes?
I have the same grade on him as I gave Cam Ward. And you couldn't be any more different as players.
Yeah.
So, totally different stylistically. Cam Ward, a little more loose, a little more flowing, a little bit more of a feel type player. Whereas Mendoza is very, staccato like this, just like there's almost, a little robotic with how he is, but, incredibly accurate, incredibly tough. Both guys, I think, are going to be really good players, even though they're so different. I would stack him behind the big three from, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was Caleb Williams 1, Drake May 2, Jaden Daniels 3. I would slide him in right behind those three guys. That is, we've seen was an incredible class. So, he's going to be good, man. He's got a chance to really be good.
Well, no slight, man. I mean, let's not forget. I mean, Josh Allen wasn't the first. Josh Allen, if I'm not mistaken, was quarterback 3 taken in a draft class, right? I mean, and the guy who's taken second just won the Super Bowl after bouncing around for a bunch of teams. So you're of the mindset of he's worthy of a first overall pick because he's the same grade as Cam Ward. Doesn't matter if the Raiders aren't ready to 100% surround him with the talent to make him successful right off the bat. You go ahead and you take him. That's your opinion.
My test on that is two things. Do you have, if you're going to go to a bad team when you're picked up there. So, how early do you get them on the field? To me, it's just, are you mentally and physically tough enough to withstand, what's coming your way early on? And, Drake May is a great example of that. The first year there, they didn't have anything in New England, but he was mentally tough and physically tough to get through that. And here, obviously way ahead of schedule in the Super Bowl in the second year. But I think Mendoza, that's his calling card. If you're going to say what is the best thing about him as a football player, I would say those two areas. Like he's physically tough. He is mentally tough. Physically tough from the beatings he takes in games, and then, gets right back up, and whether he's bleeding or not, he's out there rolling. And then mentally tough when you look at late game situations, Penn State, all the way through the playoff run, every time they've had big moments and needed it, Iowa, he's been up to the challenge. So I think that's a good place to start.
Daniel Jeremiyah here on the Rich Eisen Show. You put out your top 50 draft prospects as well as another mock draft, but let's start with your top.
Top 50 is getting updated this weekend, so that's just the original. There's some changes coming.
All right, but
yeah,
I can only.
I want you to get excited, Rich. I want you to have something to look forward to.
I can only work with what I've got. You know what I mean? Like this is all I've got right now. So you've got Fernando Mendoza 1, and Jeremiyah Love is your second best prospect at the running back spot. So this is obviously a very talented kid. Like, what's your comp? Is Bijan a comp? Is that fair? What do you got?
Well, first of all, I want to see you get in Rich Eisen combine shape, and to not play on words with Jeremiyah Love as my second player. That's a little disappointing, but I feel like you'll be there. You'll be there by the time we hit the.
Well, I mean, a defender one-on-one on him would be on Love Island. Daniel, I mean,
nice.
What else you need? What else can I do right now? That's just for starters. That's just for starters. That's just for starters.
Getting you some reps, dude. He's so fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Like my favorite thing about Jeremiyah Love is, we use terms in scouting. Like you're elusive. You've got make, miss, and space. And for most players, when you're going to make somebody miss, you have to gather. You have to kind of come to balance. You'll stop. Think about if you're watching a basketball game, you kind of come to balance, and then you might cross somebody over.
Mm-hmm.
He makes guys miss on the dead run. Like he does not break down. You'll see him in the pit game. He's running full speed, and you'll see him spin in the open field. And it's like he was just like running a 40 and just kind of mixes in a spin, makes you miss, and he's gone. And you've got the ability to run all the routes out of the backfield. You can line him up in the formation, let him run wide receiver routes. You'll see one-handed catches. Like he's a really dynamic athlete. So he would be in that playmaker category where you're talking about running backs going up there in the top 10. You like to say he's more than just a runner. Some of the, think about the McCaffreys and the Bijans and all the different things, Saquon, these guys that can do all these different things. He's a different build, maybe a little more narrow, maybe looks physically a little different, but someone that can impact the game big time, both as a runner and a receiver.
Okay. And then you look at the top 50 draft prospects in the top 10. I see 4 Buckeyes, which is amazing for a team that couldn't even win their conference or even a college football playoff game with so much talent. But that's neither here nor there. Why do you have Reese 3 and David Bailey 4? And then if we look at your first few picks of your mock draft, you've got the Jets having an opportunity to take either Reese or Bailey, and they take Bailey, and Reese drops all the way down to 7. How do we square this circle, Daniel?
Well, a couple things. Number one, as I mentioned, we'll have an update on the top 50 coming up.
Okay.
So there'll be a little shuffle there.
All right.
But this is the debate and the conversation that teams are going to have, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of opportunity to have it with ourselves, it's the age-old discussion of production versus potential. So you've got a player in Reese who plays off the ball. He plays on the ball. They kind of move him around. I like him best as an edge rusher. I think that's where he's got a chance to really thrive going forward. But there's not as much proof of concept as a rusher. He's got some production there. But you're watching Bailey, you're seeing a polished pass rusher with elite get off, who knows how to win, who has a college career full of production going back to Stanford and was really a dominant rusher this year. He just further advanced as a pass rusher. So he gives you the production. He's also, I think, will test extremely well. Both these guys are going to test well. They're both freak athletes. But when you're sitting there and you're the Jets and you look, we don't need to take any chances. Like, let's just get a sure thing here. It feels to me like Bailey's a little safer in that. And then you also have Ruben Bain, who's factored into this whole thing as well, who's
he's awesome. He awesome.
I just wrote down, like, he is a junkyard dog. Like, he is just an absolute warrior, who not only, wins reps, he just beats people up. So if you're looking for an identity, as a physical identity, I think I had him going to the Titans.
Yes, you did.
For a team with Robert Saleh. All of a sudden now you look up and you've got Jeffrey Simmons and you also have Ruben Bain on that same front. You all of a sudden now you're a little bit of a bully up front with how you play. So those 3 guys, I think you're going to see teams with all different orders: Bailey, Bain, and Reese. 3 totally different flavors, but 3 great football players.
And you got Tate at the top of a very talented wide receiver group and worthy of that. He's awesome. And I know Jeremiah Smith gets a lot of the pub, and for good reason. This kid's awesome. And you think the Giants at 5 add him for Dart. Neighbors comes back, Scattaboo stops, bashing his head against a brick wall, and he's ready to roll, right? Like, although Caleb Downs has got to be a tempting choice at 5 as well for the Giants. Certainly when, John Harbaugh enjoyed having Kyle Hamilton at the back of that defense, right, for all those years before leaving for the Giants. What do you think about the Giants' choice there, Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, they've got some needs, so they can go in different areas.
Right.
But I had to look at it with these organizations with a fresh start, with a new coach, and you have a quarterback here in year number 2. To me, if you're going to have to sacrifice something, I'd rather sacrifice and maybe wait a little longer on the defensive side of the ball and give Jackson Dart some help. I mean, after Neighbors got hurt last year, it was not a whole lot for him to work with, and he actually played pretty well. I want to arm him with some weapons. I want to see Jackson Dart take a big leap next year. This team has a chance to, potentially make a pretty quick turnaround because the defensive line's in great shape. But if a year from now they don't make the playoffs, but we're talking about Jackson Dart, establishing himself as the guy there, I think you'd feel a lot better than if we're sitting there saying, hey, they had a top 5 defense, but we don't know what we have in Jackson Dart. It feels to me like this would be, a little more heavy on the offensive side of the ball. Let's get that kid up and running.
Okay. And Jeremiah Love being it's so highly touted, not just by you, right? sitting there at 9, the Chiefs just can sit there and just wait for him to drop, or, you could see the Commanders sitting there at 7, Saints at 8. Would this be the inflection point for the draft for trades, do you think? Just to hop up and take this kid, or not? Like, where do you see the inflection points here?
Yeah, it's interesting to me. It's always usually after there's a drop off at the position. So we need to find out where the separation points are. Right now, I have a little bit of separation with the top 2 tackles in that next group, but I think that could end up squeezing down a little bit closer. He is the one true running back that's got a lock first round grade across the league. There's his teammate now is a good player who's got some support in that early second round. Maybe he sneaks into the bottom of the first round, but I don't really see as great. And I love him. No pun intended. I don't know if we're going to see teams parting with picks to get Jeremiyah Love. That's where the running back thing might come into play. But in terms of the inflection points, we don't really know what's going to happen with the second quarterback. That's usually a spot where you could see it. I don't get the sense that there's going to be a trade up market there for wherever Ty Simpson, if Ty Simpson were to land somewhere in the first round. So I think that's TBD, Rich. We're looking for a divider of where the separation is. The problem is we've got only one quarterback right now that's, for sure a lock first round pick. Quarterbacks are normally a trade, market. Edge rushers, we've got those big 3, which are great, but then there's another whole wave of them. It's one of the deepest positions in the draft. And that's the other position where you typically see a lot of movement. So, we'll have to see if something emerges, but I don't have one off the top of my head looking at it right now.
Yeah, you just kind of transitioned me to my next question for you, Daniel Jeremiyah, which is, you don't have Ty Simpson being drafted in the first round. You have Mendoza starting the first round off, and then 0 quarterbacks in your 2.0 mock draft for the rest of the first round. And you got the Jets having a shot at 16. You've got the Rams sitting there at 29. Everybody's thinking that the Rams might use their second first-round pick that they got from Atlanta in last year's draft, I guess their second first-round pick that they'd use would be their own, maybe on a Stafford successor, but you don't have it. Why is that? What's your thoughts?
Well, there's the 3 teams there, and I'll take them one by one here because you look at the teams that could be those quarterback teams. The Jets, it feels to me a lot more like they have their assets in next year's draft,
yep.
and that's where they're pointing towards. And this year, take a flyer. I've been, advocating, hey, why don't you try and make a move for Tanner McKee or Davis Mills, and maybe you get lucky, hit lightning in a bottle with a mid-round pick for a trade for one of those guys, and then everything's going towards the future. So using this draft to build up your resources to support the quarterback you get in the 27 draft. So that's the Jets. Then we get to the Rams, and this is the one where there's the most, conversation and the most smoke. There's a lot. There's it's rumor season, Rich. So, you talk to scouts around the league and they feel like Ty Simpson must have been told by somebody that he was going to be a lock to go in the first round because he had, $5 and $6 million offers in the transfer portal. Why would he turn that down unless somebody had given him some sort of assurances he'd go in the first round? And people have thought maybe that was the Rams. Maybe the Rams could be that team. So that's the theory there. But with the way I look at it is the Rams and in the past looked at Jared Goff and said, you know what, he's good enough to get us to a Super Bowl. We don't feel like we can win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff. So we're going to make this move and go get Matthew Stafford. And we've seen how Matthew Stafford throws a football as well as anybody who's ever thrown it. And then now you're going to, at the end of Matthew Stafford's era, then go to Ty Simpson. That just, I couldn't wrap my mind around that. It kind of, to me, he's a lesser version of Jared Goff who you deemed wasn't good enough. So that one, I couldn't make sense of. And then you look at the last one. So we've got the Jets, we've got the Rams, and you've got the Steelers. And the Steelers, look, I like Ty Simpson better than Kenny Pickett, but you could see how maybe that would scare you off of that a little bit. He's not the biggest guy. He's not real imposing. I think they do really like Will Howard. And I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to kind of see what he can do. So I didn't have the Steelers as a Ty Simpson team either, which then leaves me with, I don't know where to put him. I don't know where to sneak him in.
Well, we'll see, obviously, and this is something you and I are going to chop up quite a bit when we're on the air on NFL Network with the on-field drills starting next Thursday in Indianapolis. Before I let you go, it's my annual question: who's got a shot to break the record for fastest 40? Who can track down Xavier Worthy next week? DJ
Brennan Thompson. Brennan Thompson is an undersized wide receiver from Mississippi State who, going through the training and the testing part as he's been getting ready for this thing, has been throwing up some unbelievable times, and everybody has him as the clear favorite here to at least give this thing a run.
Okay, so that's next week. We'll see the receivers out there on NFL Network. Very, very well. And do you think Mendoza is going to throw? What do you think?
I hope so. I would
too.
probably be surprised if he did. I'd be pleasantly surprised. But the good news is we've had years, Rich, where we've had 5-6 quarterbacks not throw. I do think everyone else is going to throw, and that includes Ty Simpson. So I'm excited to see him and see what he looks like in person and see how he spins it. So we'll have some fun.
All right, now I'll take one last question crack at you. How will the Seahawks winning affect the draft? What do you think? The copycat league. Everyone's going to look for the next Emmy-nominated. I remember last year you and I were talking in the booth like, this kid's unbelievable.
He's a freak.
You know what I mean? And he drops the second round. Will kids like him now get pushed up if there's another one? I mean, how will it affect the draft, what the Seahawks just did?
Yeah, I don't even think it's just Emmy-nominated. I think when you look at Emmy-nominated, Derwin James, Hamilton from the Ravens, like trying to find that body type, and that's, to me, is McNeil-Warren, the safety from Toledo. We'll get a chance to watch him work out, and he's 6'3.5", 210 pounds, and can run. So he would be that guy in this draft. I also think you look at a team, as I mentioned, that waves of pass rushers. This is the second year in a row. The Eagles did not have anybody with 10 sacks. The Seahawks did not have anyone with 10 sacks. What they did is they had 7 or 8 defensive linemen and just waves of dudes, keeping guys fresh and not only wearing you out over the course of a game, but being able to sustain that through a very long season. So I always laugh when people say, you got to be good in the trenches, and then you come out with a mock draft. You go, we don't need another defensive lineman. I need a receiver. So I think you'll see a little bit more of that. Teams that already have existing good fronts want more.
Well, Daniel, well done as always. I will see you next week. Great cut.
Thank you, buddy.
Great lid. Your lid's ready. Your information's clearly always ready. And I look forward to seeing you there next week, pal.
No, we're gonna have fun, man.
We always do. Daniel Jeremiyah, I'm going to spend so much time with him next week, but not enough time to continue our chat right now. I'll see you in Indy.
See you, buddy.
Safe. Daniel Jeremiyah right here at Move the Sticks. Follow him in everything that he does. Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.